Hey, developers. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Now, I actually interviewed Wes Boss probably around 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It's a little bit of a time ago. And I recorded it, I put it up on my blog, and then the audio got lost. But I have recently found the audio of my interview with Wes Boss. And if you don't know Wes, he is an entrepreneur, developer, designer. He makes some really amazing courses. He has a React for Beginners course, JavaScript 30. You can see some of his work here. He also has a really popular podcast called Syntax.fm. So, the Syntax podcast, that is. So, I thought, since I found this old interview with him, that I would share it with you guys. It's audio unless you don't have any video. But I think a lot of things we talk about are still relevant today. We talk about his JavaScript, his actually React for Beginners course. We talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Actually, at this time, he was still doing some freelancing and still doing classes for HackerU, and I don't think he does that anymore. So that stuff's a little outdated, but a lot of the stuff we talk about is still important today. So I thought I'd go ahead and put this interview up here on YouTube. So, sit back, put your headphones on. You can listen to it. It's about an hour long, but it's really interesting. And by the way, at the beginning of it, I mentioned my new book, the Ember.js Cookbook. So you can see this is a little bit older, but I actually have a new book called the Vue.js in Action book by Manning, actually published by Manning. It's created by me. So you can find links for all this in the description below. And by the way, we do talk about React for Beginners a lot in this interview with Wes, and I actually have a link for React for Beginners in the description too. And if you buy his course from me, actually I get a few bucks. And if you don't want to buy his course, go ahead and check out. There's actually some free courses. I would highly recommend his JavaScript 30 course. It's absolutely free. So click on the link below for those courses. That helps me out too. So without further ado, let's listen to this interview with Wes. Let's see how it goes. Hi, this is Eric. I'm with programwitheric.com, and today I have Wes here, and I also have Jeff from Ember Screencasts as my co-host. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Wes.
Hey.
Before we get started, quickly, I just want to let everybody know I'm I'm writing a book on Ember.js. It's the Ember.js Cookbook. You can find it. You can find more information at it at programwitheric.com/book. So just want to give you some information. Anybody's listening to this and wants to learn a little bit more Ember.js, you can check out the book there. It's not released yet. It'll be out soon though. But you can always join my mailing list and get some more information about it. So, Wes, thank you for taking some time to answer some questions. Today, the purpose of this interview, I really want to get into your React for Beginners course and ask some questions about it. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited about it.
Cool, cool. So we'll go ahead and just start right here. So I know you work at HackerU, or you do classes there. So is that your full-time job, or do you just work on products?
Yeah, so my full-time job is I call myself a full stack dev. So I kind of split my time between doing consulting work. I work with startups and whatnot, primarily doing JavaScript, HTML, CSS stuff for them. And then I also teach at HackerU, and that's generally in the evenings, twice a week. We teach part-time classes there. There's also boot camps as well, but I sort of head up some of the part-time ones. And then I've got my products as well, one of which is the React for Beginners video series we'll talk about today.
Wow, so that's quite a bit. Do you
Yeah.
do them all on the same day or various times of the week, or do you have like seasons?
It's various times in the week. It really depends. Uh, like probably during the day, 60% of my work is consulting right now,
Hmm.
and then the rest is working on products and helping people with the existing products and being in the chat room and marketing and all that good stuff.
Hmm.
Sounds like you have a little bit more flexible schedule to work on a few things.
Yeah. I have always made sure that my schedule isn't packed, as well as that if I need to be able to jump onto any one thing because there's a fire that needs to be put out, I'm able to do that.
That's cool. So what motivated you to start creating products in the first place?
I've always been like a blogger, and I've always been doing YouTube tutorials for 5-6 years now, and I did a couple videos on or a couple blog posts and videos on Sublime Text a couple years ago, and they blew up. So I was getting all this traffic, and I thought I can't just like let this traffic go to waste because RSS is kind of dead. So people like once they read it, they're never going to come back. So I threw up a quick email form saying, uh, I'm writing a book on Sublime Text, and people started putting their email address in, and so I thought, oh, I better write a book about Sublime Text now. Uh, so I
So you
wrote that.
decided you were writing the book about a couple minutes before you announced it.
Yeah. I just put it up and I was like, if people are interested, it's good. Like there's that whole like test before you actually go ahead and do it. So
Yeah.
people were seeing all kinds of interest in it and people were asking for more. So I decided that that would be a good one.
That's interesting. So, did you think of it as a business when you first started, or was it just more of a side project because you were working on
No,
these
no,
blogs and you're
I've
getting some
I've
interest?
always been super entrepreneurial. So like I'm really into helping people learn to code and uh I really like building websites and I'm all about open source, but like a huge driving factor behind all of this stuff is that you can make money doing so because like you need to live, right?
Hmm.
So from day one I was looking at it in terms of a profit generator for myself.
Yeah, and it's a great measure of how much you're helping people because someone giving you like 5 minutes of their time, they'll gamble anything on that. Almost like
Yeah.
they'll gamble on StumbleUpon or Facebook with that. But if they pay you money, that means that you're giving them something that's more valuable than the money they're giving you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good indication. So, you went from writing the Sublime Text blog post, you created a product for it. Now, what made you think to switch over to React for Beginners, your newest course?
Yeah. So I did in between that I did two free ones, which is a huge reason why my React one is doing well. But I did a course on Flexbox, and I did a course on working with command lines called Command Line Power User. And through those two, it sort of started to gain momentum, and then I just kept hearing from lots of people that I want to learn React, and I'm finding this a little bit too hard and whatnot. At the same time, I had been learning React myself, and I realized that it's a totally different world than the jQuery world, which is where a lot of people are coming from. So I
Mhm.
thought this would be a great next series for me to do.
So before we
Nice.
focus a lot on React for beginners, which we will do for most of the interview, those two free ones. So
Yeah.
how did that work with building momentum? Was it a huge spike at the beginning, or was it more slowly growing after you released them?
There when you initially release it, it's a pretty big spike because like people like Smashing Mag pick it up and
Uh huh.
if Smashing Mag shares it on their Facebook, like, you get like 1,000 signups or something like that, which is
Nice.
really nice. But then the real numbers are coming from the slow trickle. Like
Hmm.
you can get 20, 30, 60, 100 a day just from people, and then every now and then it gets picked up by a pretty big someone who's got a big following, and then you see a spike. But then yeah, the real numbers are coming from the day in day out momentum.
Do you
It's
feel like a lot
interesting.
of that traffic is because it's a comprehensive course?
Yeah, I learned that like I did so many like one-off YouTube videos, and like they would get like a couple hundred views, and over a year they'd have a couple thousand views on YouTube. They'd kind of, but as soon as I packaged it up and like I first of all I made sure that it was like product quality, even though it was free. I made sure that it was really polished, and there's intros and outros, and there's a website for it, and like it looks like something that you'd pay money for, but it's free. And then
Hmm.
as soon as I did that, people started sharing it because people that's all people want at the end of the day. They just want like a kit. They want something that will teach them from start to finish, rather than them have to like piecemeal all these half crappy YouTube videos together.
Hmm.
That was the free products that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. It's flexbox.io and commandlinepoweruser.com.
I see. And you were teaching that too at the same time, or have you
Yeah.
taught those
So
classes?
the command line power user one came from almost all my stuff comes from me being sick of telling people how to do it. Because the the command line power user I teach, and whenever I opened up my terminal and did these little tricks, people would be like, "Hold on, what were you doing there?" So I got sick of having to set up all my students' sort of terminal. So I was like, I'm just gonna make a video series that's full of all the setup as well as all the little tricks. that can really speed you up. So I just made that, and of course it applies to pretty much anyone that is using the terminal, which is primarily web developers.
So you touched on this a little bit. You're saying when you started the React for Beginners course, you heard some interest in it. People were having some problems with it. So what like specific pains were you hearing about it? Was it just not enough information out there, or
Yeah, just I think that some of the tutorials that were out there weren't complete enough. They weren't like really accessible. They're not interesting. Everything is a to-do list, and that bores me. So if you can get away from the to-do list, and like what we build in our course is an application for managing like a fish store, because the price of fish and the amount of fish change at any given time. So like it's kind of like a fun one, and you can also look at that and apply it to projects you'd be working on yourself. So yeah, I think that is just I hadn't seen anyone who's done a good job, or like also like not everyone likes the way that I teach, but there's quite a few people that are on board with the West Boss style of teaching. So I thought that like maybe I can teach it in the way that I like to teach, and maybe some people will find that useful.
So, what sets apart the West Boss style of teaching?
Um, that's a good question. I think that I just break it down to be simple. I don't grade like I don't go over stuff too quickly,
Mhm.
but I also don't really stick around and wait on stuff. So sometimes people can find tutorials go way too fast, and then other
Mhm.
times people can find tutorials that are just so long and boring to watch. So I try to find a nice balance between that, as well as you just be funny and talk to people and use like explain it as in terms of things that they know. So often in React, I'll sort of say like, well, in jQuery we would have this, but that's not really how it works in React. And the React way of doing that would be this way. And it starts to click for people there.
Mhm. So you're not
so you try to make
starting
it?
directly from nothing. You're going from a jQuery base, which
Uh
where a lot of web developers are.
yeah, I think the main point is that I when I teach something, I remember very clearly how painful it was for me to learn it,
Hmm.
and I remember the confusion points. Often when I'm learning, I'll write down what the confusing points were for me
Oh,
or
that's
where I
smart.
had trouble, and then when I go ahead and teach it, then I can just say, well, you might think this, and because often when I know something too well and I go back and teach it, you'll often just glaze over the points that you take for granted, right?
Hmm.
Nobody likes a teacher that is way too smart because they can't put themselves in the student's shoes.
Yeah, it reminds me of the math professor who's like, "Oh, this is trivial,"
Yeah,
and then you go
it's
home and
not.
spend 5 hours on it.
Yeah, that no one likes it. Oh, it's so simple, or don't overthink it. Those are very dangerous things to say when someone is learning.
Hmm.
I also like the fact that you're putting in real examples instead of how to do a to do app or a blog. You're kind of making it more like real world. I'm
Yeah,
sure that helps too.
yeah, real world, and then I also run into real world problems as well. I often sometimes people will make these tutorials so they don't hit any bumps in the road, but often when I'm doing a workshop or teaching like a series like this, I'll hit those real world ones and figure out how do we get around this.
Yeah, for sure. So once you had this idea and you obviously you figured out there's a pain, you have a pretty good way to fix it. How much time did you spend each week working on the React for Beginners course? Where did you start that process?
Um, where did I start? Generally, the way that it goes is that I'll start thinking of like what would be a fun thing to build. So like I knew React, and then I had built a whole bunch of stuff in it, but I was like thinking like what would be a nice application to teach people. So I was thinking like what would be real time, something where the data changes, something where you can add and remove stuff. So I sort of thought through that and got to build the
Hmm.
application. And then generally my process for building that is I build that app, and then I build it two or three more times, going over it, making sure that it's for best practice, getting code reviews and whatnot.
Oh, so you even get code reviews on it
Yeah,
from
yeah,
friends?
you because it's sometimes you can make something that works, but then it's not like a best practice, and then
Hmm.
you'll get called out for it. So I made sure that like I get people that like really know what they're talking about, and I spend a lot of times in like IRC chat rooms, just asking questions like, should I be doing this? Should I set straight state directly? And there's all these little bits that could be like a code smell, and I want to make sure that I keep those to a minimum. So
That
it's
brings
following
up
best practice.
an interesting vein of thought. So, how often do React conventions change?
Um, I don't know. I think that it's still in flux right now, and it's moving. It's
Pun
moving fairly.
intended.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get that. And it hasn't changed too much in the last little bit, but the community is sort of still settling on what the best practices will be.
hmm So, do
I
you
guess
ever
that's
get
always
a best
good.
practice that's been approved by person A, who's prominent in the community, and then a person B, who's prominent in the community, comes in and it's like, ah, you're doing that wrong.
Not really. I think that
Oh,
in
that's
general the
good.
community is pretty nice.
Uh huh.
And at the end of the day, we're not here to sit around and bike shed about like certain techniques.
Uh huh.
People, we want to make sure that people understand how React works. And if you did something like someone had this big thing the other day where they're like, don't use refs, use state. And like it was this huge Stack Overflow thing for such a trivial, tiny little thing in the application. And like I said, oh, I use refs because that's what they're for. And I'm sure you can use the other way around, but it's not going to affect your overall understanding of how React works at the end of the day.
hmm
So how much time did it take to 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 do the whole course? I mean,
Yeah.
between trading, marketing, the whole thing.
Oh, I don't know. I can tell you the Flexbox one. I kind of did the math, and I think it was about 60 hours. But I wouldn't be surprised if the React one was 300 hours or so to put together. So which is a lot of time for a 5 hour video series. People think you can just turn on record and get going, right?
hmm
But it's quite a bit of work.
Did you have a routine that you did? Did you like work in the mornings a few hours or in the afternoons or
No, I just sort of once the app is done and once I'm really happy with how it works, then I go through each little piece and say what I'm gonna say, and I write that down and then I just start recording and try to get that done as soon as I can. So sometimes I'll spend like an entire day recording, and then other times I'll be able to just get one or two. But I try to do it all as close together as possible, so I'm still in that sort of headspace of how the app is working.
So,
I
did
see.
you like carve out some time where you had fewer other responsibilities?
Not really.
Ah.
I just kind of do it as I go along. I
Mhm.
it's you have to be intentional about spending a day here and there about it, but it's not like I'll take 2 weeks off and say I'm doing this right now.
Mhm.
It probably would work a little bit better that way, but yeah.
I see. So you probably missed a day here and there when you were doing the process. You weren't continuous. I'm just
Oh
trying to see if
yeah,
there's any like there's little tips or hacks that people can use if
I
they're looking to be more
and
productive like
no, I
this.
think that like I'm doing a free one on Redux right now, which is like a library for React. Um, and like I've been working on it for I don't know, maybe 2 months now, and the reason why I don't just do it all really quickly is because I'm constantly listening to what the community says, and I'm always on Twitter seeing what like the people in that sort of space that are really high. And like what they're using for best practices, and I'll read over a whole bunch of apps and see different ways of doing things. So, if I just did it like right in one big go, I would probably miss being immersed in that space for a while.
Yeah, makes sense. So what was the hardest part of that process while you were working on it, when you could?
What's the hardest part? That's a good question. Um, I think just getting it done. It's tough to, as with any project like that. That last little bit is really hard. Getting over that. Ooh, what if this is not good enough? That everyone has. What if someone that's better at React than me is gonna call me out, and that's kind of hard to kind of get over yourself.
But it's funny though, after you release it, it's like a lot of those little fears kind of go away because they're not really because you end up being, you make a great course and people are happy with what you have. So
Yeah,
they're kind of unfounded, I
yeah,
guess.
I've learned to be pretty good with that sort of thing now, because all of my products have a money back guarantee, which
Mhm.
allows me to be like, hey, you don't like it, well, here's your money back. It wasn't for you, it's not a good fit for you, because it's not a good fit for everyone. For some people it's too hard, for some people it's too easy, for some people it just doesn't, like the way that I teach doesn't jive with them. So if that's the big deal, I'm not going to try to please everybody, but I'll just give them their money back. And for 99% of the other people, I'm super happy that they really enjoy it.
Yep, that makes complete sense. And that money back guarantee, I've heard people selling development courses, and there's not too many people that get the money back. But if it's not right for them, you do offer that choice. I'm
Yeah.
assuming so. It's good.
Oh yeah.
And I noticed you also on your website for reactforbeginners.com, there's a starter course and a master package.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, so you're kind of looking for people. Why did you do two different courses, I should say?
Yeah. That's more of the marketing side of things, which is, uh, if you have two products that are different prices, people will look at the more expensive one and want to pay the extra amount, or they'll look at the first price and say, it's only a couple bucks extra for the other one. So, what that does is it allows most people to want to bump themselves on up. But then also, like, it's if you just want to learn a little bit about React, if you just want to get into the headspace, then you can just watch the first couple, the first, I think it is the 18 videos instead of all 29 of them.
And
I
so most people choose the more expensive option.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've had people kick me in the pants for that, because apparently if everybody is choosing your most expensive option, then they say it's not expensive enough. But I don't know. Like, I don't really I also think that's a pretty fair price for people to pay for that, because I don't know, you're a developer in this industry, you're probably making, like, if you round it out, probably between $50 and $150 per hour. So 1 to 20 minutes of your time is going to be pretty fair for learning learning React.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good strategy. Yeah, I mean, if I was, I think anyone that takes a look at this pricing would say it doesn't make sense not to get the larger package for just.
Yeah, exactly. They're extremely close on purpose, so that people look at it. And we've had quite a few people that also upgrade, which always makes me happy, because that means that they weren't totally sure about it and they go for the cheaper one, and then they go, "Oh, this is amazing! Can I get the extra ones?" And we upgrade them.
That's great. Yeah, was there, so since we're talking a little bit about marketing, so how did you start your email list? I mean, did you have an email list before you launched?
Yeah.
Did
So
you have a pre-launch list?
the when I started that Sublime Text form, like, on my blog post, I said I'm writing a book, and people put it. That's what started my email list. And then when I launched the Sublime textbook, I had about 2,000 people on that list. And then I think about 10% of them bought, which is nuts. But like a
Great.
0.5% is a good conversion in this industry, and like a 10% is
Mhm.
unheard of. But that's because people were specifically waiting for that book. So that's where I realized, wow, why have I been spending all my time on Twitter? Email is way better. So I really kind of doubled down on email. And that it was
Mhm.
through the other two free courses, I was able to grow it to, I think. But when I launched the React course, I was at I think like 20,000 or something like
Wow.
that, and I'm at 36,000 right now.
So lead magnets have really done well for you.
Yeah, yeah, and again, like, I really hate that whole, like, internet marketing. It feels very skeezy to me, but if you put forward very really high quality content and ask people for their email in return, and I have people asking me, how can I get on your list so I hear about my next thing? So that was a big one for me, is figuring out that if you have a decent sized email list, that you don't, I barely ever send them emails, only when I launch stuff, and only when
Mhm.
I have updates on what I'm doing. That will work out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know with my program with Eric, my website, I'm creating a book, my first book, and I'm definitely trying to make sure that I can get reach the people that are interested in it, and pulling people towards my email list, trying to, when people come through Google, they either search some Ember.js topic, or they're just checking out the podcast or whatever, that to get them involved, get them on the email list so they can get stuff that they want. That's really important.
Yeah, yeah, you absolutely. And you get people that get really angry about it because they hate giving their email address out, but there's burner accounts everywhere. If you don't like it, you can sign up for one of those 10-minute email addresses. get the
Yeah.
course,
And you can
and
always
then
unsubscribe.
yeah, unsubscribe, like do whatever you want. But in most cases, people are happy to hear about what I'm working on because they find it of value. So
Yeah,
it's not really a big
it's all
thing for
about
me.
setting the default. Because then the
Exactly. Yeah.
default is them hearing from you, and they can change it, but it's a default that's friendly to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you have a pre-launch before you launched?
No, I didn't. I had a couple of people go through it, make sure that it was pretty good. But other than that, I just got it up because by the time you want to launch, it's always a couple weeks over when you set it, and people were just asking me every day, where is it, where is it, where is it? So I just put it out there, and the first couple of days, there was like a lot of little things that I had to edit, um, but nothing huge. And same goes for the website actually. We've got this huge chat room where I teach at HackerU, and I just created a little Slack room, and I had like 30 people just kind of beavering through my website, just telling me what's wrong with it and little spelling mistakes, and like that. Getting that many people through your website really helps in getting it ready for production.
Oh, so you had on top of just having your doing the website, you actually had other people take a look at your website, read the copy, make sure everything looked okay.
Yeah, I just and like make sure it made sense and tell me how they could buy it, and like just like because sometimes you get people that come to the website and they're confused,
Mhm.
and if things might not look confusing to me, but if you have 20 people going through it, then there might be a couple of people that are confused, and they can tell you that.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure. I also noticed one other thing. Your website, you offer PayPal and and a credit card. So you
Yeah.
did Stripe integration and PayPal integration. And people hate PayPal,
Yep.
but I always hear that there's still a lot of people using it, so you should support it.
Yeah. Yeah. People, I always ask questions about PayPal on Twitter, and I get so much slack of people being like, "Don't use PayPal; it's stupid." But the reality is, so I don't have PayPal on my Sublime textbook. I have to do it manually if people want it. And I get so many people emailing me to manually pay, and I know that maybe like 20% of the people that have PayPal are emailing me. The other 80% are probably like, whatever, I'm not going to do this.
Mhm.
They don't have PayPal. So what I'm learning is that people have PayPal and they have money in their PayPal that isn't necessarily considered like money in terms of their budget. Like a lot of them have, like with their partner or a spouse, they have money in their PayPal and it's not going to go on the books, or they got paid for a like a side project from someone, so they got a little bit of cash to spend on their own on themselves. So and then like a lot of people outside North America don't have credit cards or debit cards that you can use like a credit card. So that's the only way that they have to get money out. So it's really important. I wouldn't suggest launching without it.
Yeah, what percentage of your sales come through PayPal?
Probably about 30%.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I was leaving a lot on the table by not having PayPal.
Mhm.
that's interesting. And so when you added, so that's all custom written. Do you we'll go back to marketing in a second. But did you
Yeah.
use Stripe for the credit card and then PayPal for the
Yeah,
other card
it's
then?
Stripe, and like I looked at Braintree, which does credit card and PayPal all in one.
Mhm.
But it's just a logistical nightmare up here. Like I signed up for sublimetextbook.com on Braintree, and I was ready to launch on React for Beginners, and they're like, "Oh no, you can't use it on another domain." So we have to go through this month-long process where they have to get it underwritten, and it has to go through all the proper people, and you have to fill out like a 10-page like signature thing, give all your tax information, and it's just a nightmare of red tape in Canada. So
Wow.
I was like, all right, I'm dropping. And they also, remember like you would get credit cards, and you would, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but the credit card would go chunk, chunk. You would like roll it with the carbon
Yeah.
copy paper. They sent me those. Like and then they sent me decals for my door that says we accept Visa. Uh,
That's hilarious.
and like just so backwards. So I don't know. I really like the idea of Braintree because getting both Stripe and PayPal uh, integrated was tough for me, but I ended up doing them separately.
Yeah, I think that was a good idea. Yeah, I don't see that too often. People doing both, which was a good idea.
Yeah, it's just because it's like a logistical nightmare in terms of once people buy it and then bringing it back to the site. The other thing I wanted is I don't like when people leave the website.
Mhm.
So I was like, I don't want anyone. I want it to pop open, and I want them to enter their credit card or their PayPal, and I want it to close, and that's it. And then with PayPal, you have to go back over to PayPal, which you inevitably lose people when you do that.
Mhm.
But that's just it. It's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know your friends at Entre Programmers, they're big DPD fans. That another checkout system, but
Oh, what's that called?
uh,
DPD. I've never heard of that.
I think it's digital product download.
Oh,
But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what Ruby Tapas uses, right?
yeah. Okay. Anyways, so before you launched, going back to marketing here,
Yeah.
switching gears a second. So what kind of marketing did you do? So do you primed your list? You told them. I'm guessing you mentioned it, and you said you've had people wanting you to finish this course
Yeah.
and get it done. So you were probably advertising it months before you launched
Yeah, I
it.
think
I'm
I
guessing.
think I sent 1 or 2 emails just leading up. And I asked, I said I'm doing a course on React, and like also what else are you struggling with? So what I got is like a whole bunch of people emailing me saying I want you to do a course on X, Y, and Z, which is really good information. Um, and then yeah, so that's I kind of just warmed it up, but other than that, it was mostly just through Twitter, through my list, sending a big email out, and then just people sharing it.
You didn't have any paid advertising at all. You didn't do Facebook ads,
No,
or
I've tried. I've lost so much money on Facebook ads, and it just doesn't work for me. It's
People don't go
so
to to Facebook to learn React.
well, they do, and I was at one point I was running like a zero deficit, which meant that like I was spending $59 in Facebook ads to make one sale, and I was even happy with that because it was just getting people into my system.
Mhm.
But and that was with something called remarketing, which is someone visits your website, and if someone visited any of my websites, you drop a Facebook pixel, and then it
Mhm.
starts advertising to them, hey, React for beginners, you know who Westboss is already. And even then, $59 to make one sale, it just didn't make sense. And same with the banners. I tried that, but I'm learning that if you want to do advertisement like that, you need to have a product that's like $100 or more.
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. So if you had a couple $100 product, then your cost to acquire
Yeah,
probably.
or like you're like a service like FreshBooks or something where they can spend $100 to get you because you're going to be paying them $30 a month for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's not a
It's all
huge
about
thing
the
for them.
lifetime value.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. Which I
it
guess if
didn't
you get
really.
someone on your list and then they buy your next product.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this: I mean, did you do any analysis to see how many people bought your last product who bought this product? I mean,
Um,
just out of curiosity.
I
I'm
haven't
guessing.
I haven't done it yet. I probably should be more up on the numbers, but quite a few people who bought it. I would say like if I were to guess, I'd say like 30 or 40% of the sales are people who either had bought my last product or who had taken one of my free ones because they said a lot of people said, oh, if the free one is that good, I can't imagine how good the paid one is going to be. So
Yeah.
it's pretty huge, and that's really exciting to me because that means the next one that I put out and people are just craving more, right? And for
Mhm.
them, it's a lot of people have training budgets at their work. it's
Mhm.
it's not a huge thing for them to throw down it's like $60 to learn something new when they're gaining such a big skill.
Yeah, for sure. So when was the launch? Was it a couple months ago?
Yeah, it was I think mid October, I think.
Okay, mid
So
October.
yeah, a couple of months ago.
So did you have to do any updates after you? So after you launched, was there any? You mentioned you beforehand you had a lot of people take a look at your website. You
Yeah.
had some minor things to fix. Did you have to go back afterwards?
There was a couple little things. React Router updated, and then I had to go back and change it. React itself updated, and that was it was a breaking change, or not a breaking change, but it threw some ugly warnings in the console. So I
Mhm.
had to go back and update a couple of videos, which luckily it wasn't too major. I was able to splice in the parts and explain what was happening. But at a certain point, since the stuff moves so quickly, I'll probably have to re-record a majority of them once there's breaking changes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wish
I
there was an
just
easier way to do that. Go ahead, Jeff.
yeah, I mean it is a problem for screencast. I just had to re-record something I recorded just last year, but so many little parts of it had gotten out of date.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah,
probably do it again in 2017.
it's sort of the nature of the beast. I think like this is doing really well because it's so new and people are learning it. Whereas if you have something that's a little bit more evergreen, like how CSS works, most
Hmm.
people already know that, and you probably won't have as much demand. So
Right. There's
it's
more
kind of hit and miss.
competition.
Exactly.
So you're going to be continuously updating it for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think as long as like it's not something that people are like constantly watching, but the way it works is someone buys it, they watch it, they do the thing, and then they stick around in the chat room, but they're done the series. It's not something you'll always be doing.
So
But
there's
if I want to continue to sell it, then yeah.
so talking about selling, would you be willing to give some of your sales figures on
Um,
how the launch did?
I can tell you how many I sold. I don't know if my launch
I think it shows
series.
it on the website.
Yeah, I have it as that's called social proof in marketing. Um, you just show how many people have bought it. So let's see what we got here. 3,542 people have bought it. Um, and a lot of those are not a lot of them, but the team license has turned out to be doing really well
Wow.
compared to the team license for the Sublime one. So often people will buy one for $200 and they'll get all 10 people in their company on. So yeah, that's how many. I don't know. You can sort of do the math in terms of $59 each.
Yeah, that's a
That's
pretty good return on investment for
yeah. Those are
300
sales.
hours.
I also do a lot of like affiliates here and there,
Hmm.
which people with existing audiences or people with nice overlap, I'll offer them. They get a 40% cut of the profits,
Nice.
which is pretty hefty for them.
Hmm.
What program do you use to do your affiliates?
Like every good developer, I did it myself. It's I don't have a lot of affiliates. I maybe have like 6 different people on my affiliate list. And the way it works is that they have a link, and they send people to that link. It drops a 2-week cookie, and then when they buy it, it stamps their purchase as their affiliate. And then once a month, I'll bust out my Google spreadsheet and just tally it up and get them to send me an invoice. So there's nothing automated or anything to it.
Well, that's really smart. I think you can really double. I mean, yeah, you can really double or triple your sales just by having other people go out there and do it. I think it's more common in the online make money online but world, but I
Hmm.
think anytime you sell a product, especially one that's as popular as this, that's a good idea to do that.
Oh yeah, totally. It's been huge for me in getting lots of sales because people with big email lists are really they're really receptive to doing stuff like that, or people with big websites.
Hmm.
If it lines up with their audience, and they're happy to make the recommendation.
Can you share what percentage of those numbers come from affiliates?
Oh, I don't know that either, but I'd probably say 20%.
Uh-huh.
So still a large part is coming just from uh my
Right. I
own
see that
email
you
and
offer
everything.
$10 off.
Yeah, on my own website. Not a lot come from there. Actually, I don't know where a lot of the people come from, and that's because I think what's happening is people visit it, and then they hear about React, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Wes had a series about that. Maybe I should go ahead and learn it." So a lot of the sales are coming direct of people just typing it into the URL bar.
Hmm.
Are you getting SEO on the website?
Um, I don't. I think so. I don't know. I don't think it's a ton. Like I don't have any content in there. So unless people are specifically searching like learning React or React for beginners, then they probably won't find it. But I get a lot of traffic, SEO traffic to my blog, which in turn I've got a pretty big banner up on my site right now, which in turn will drive people to it.
So where did most of your sales come from? Was it mostly at the list at the beginning and then
Yeah,
this partnerships with other people later on?
yeah, it's mostly the list. And now the way that it works is that it's just sort of a steady trickle. Um, of people coming in, and then every now and then, like Sasha Grief, he has Discover Meteor,
Hmm.
and he put a link to my course in one of his blog posts about how Meteor is going towards React, and that sold a whole bunch. And then in that in turn, it got people chatting about React on the Meteor forums, and then someone put a link to my course there and said it was good, and then that sold a
Nice.
whole bunch. So it's funny, every now and then my sales will just spike, and I'll be like, "Where is this coming from?"
It's you got a lot of good word of mouth. It
Yeah,
sounds like.
that's really all it is. Is like a huge part of it is letting people know about it. But then as soon as people know about it, then it's all word of mouth and people vouching for it. Because you can spend all kinds of money and time on advertising, but word of mouth trumps everything.
What recommendation would you have for people starting out with a course? And I notice you have a lot of really good recommendations from other developers. I see like there's a 7, 8 Twitter
Yep.
people. These are great. A lot of proof, and then you have Peter Cooper and Heather Payne also gave you recommendations.
Yep.
How did that come about? Do you have any tips for people looking to do
Yeah.
that other than?
You just you kind of antsy up and ask people. So
Hmm.
on my Sublime textbook, I asked a friend of mine, Darcy Clark, and then I also asked Adi Osmani, who's got a huge following, and like I've had relationships with both these people for a long time, and I sort of said, hey, would it be weird if you were to give me a quote like this? And more often than not, they're honored, and especially if it's good content. Like all four of them had to vet the content because they're
Hmm.
not going to just put their name on everything. But like in another way is just go ahead and ask. I for my Sublime textbook, I initially asked Chris Coyer if he would give me a quote, and he said like, "Oh, I'm not actually that familiar with your work, so I'd love to, but like I can't just put my name on something that I don't know." So I was like, "Oh, that's totally fine." But then that turned into him saying, "Hey, your stuff actually looks pretty good. Do you want to write a blog post for CSS Tricks?" And that in turn sold a whole bunch of sales from there.
Yeah, that makes totally sense. Just ask for it, and then I'm guessing you were looking at social media too, and then asking people after they tweeted out recommendations to put on the website.
Yeah. I found out what has happened is people used to never tweet out nice things. And then I started like just retweeting people that said nice things, and now everybody says nice things. Uh, but I just have a little in TweetDeck you can make these like curated lists of tweets. So whenever someone says not something nice about one of my products, I'll throw it in that list, and then and every now and then I'll put a couple of them up on the website.
Yeah, I mean, it looks awesome. I mean, there's so much praise for the product. I mean, well deserved.
It's kind of cool to show tweets as well because you know that it's not like just someone that's fake. It's clearly someone that has a Twitter account, and you can click off and see who they are, and it's actually real.
Right. So it's a network of social proof.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good. And then one other question you have your email address and your phone number. Is that if I call that right now, will your cell phone ring,
Yeah,
or is
you want
that?
to try? um, yeah, people think I'm crazy putting my phone number up on a website like this, but and I learned this a long time ago that when I was freelancing, and I still do now, is have your phone number up on your website because it makes people feel like that you're a real person and that you're not trying to screw them. Like all the sales copy on there is real, and if you don't believe it, you can call me up. So almost
So if someone calls, do you just answer?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got maybe 3 calls in since I've had up on both of my websites.
Huh.
One guy wanted tech support, which was a bit hard. But then other than that, it was just people saying like, oh hey, I was wondering if we could buy a team license, and like often they it turns into sales or people that are kind of not sure about it. But in most cases, people look at it and they go, oh wow, he's put his phone number up on here. This must be real.
Hmm.
And then they go ahead and buy it. So I definitely
Nice.
recommend it. Like just I don't care that my phone number's up there. Almost nobody calls me. Nobody likes calling random people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. I've been doing this thing too. When I connect with people on Twitter, if I get a direct message from them, I'll be like, "Hey, if you want to I can talk to you. So a lot of times, maybe I'll give him my number, or at least I'll give him my Skype name, and we'll
Yeah,
jump on Skype and just talk. I think that's a great way of connecting with people and letting them know you're real. And I think
absolutely.
that's great. I've never done it, but maybe I'll have to do that. Maybe in my next product.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why people are so afraid of putting their email address and their phone number online. I've been doing it forever, and like every now and then I get some weird calls, but it's so worth it in terms of like I bet the amount of sales that I've made from people seeing that is much higher than me having to field an hour's worth of weird calls.
So looking back through this whole process, was there anything you would do different?
Um, oh, that's a good question. I don't think so. I'm sure there's little stuff here and there. But I was pretty happy. I pretty happy with how it all has all fanned out. And I thought a lot about the website and the copy and the content and how people like it. I spent a ton of time just like planning and researching this, and I think that really has started to pay off.
Hmm.
Do you think you would have changed the prices? Do you think they're too low or too high? I guess they're
Um,
just right, maybe.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I could put them higher or I could put them lower, but I wouldn't know because a lot of the sales come from these spikes and whatnot. So I probably could have gone a little bit higher as well, but I'm really happy with where it's at. I've made some good money on it, so I'm not too concerned.
So you mentioned spending a lot of time on research and the copy. So how did you decide which copy to put up there?
Yeah. Someone messaged me and they let me see if I can find that really quickly. Someone messaged me about the copy and said that you did a really good job at uh, making it seem very convincing, but not skeezy, which is exactly what I want to go for. Like I really have to, you really have to lean in and convince people that it's worth it. Like on my
Hmm.
Sublime Textbook website, I have a calculator where you put in how many hours or how much you make an hour, and you put in how much time you think it's going to save you a day. And I say that it's going to save you 30 minutes a day, but you can change that up or
Uh-huh.
down. So like it tells you like this book will pay for itself in like a couple hours or a couple days or whatever it is, right? So
Nice.
you look at that and you're like, well, like I can't afford not to buy this, right? Or
Yeah.
with JavaScript is like there's a lot of anxiety right now about JavaScript is moving really quickly. It's changing. People are used to just using jQuery for years and years, and now all of a sudden everyone's using Angular and Ember and React and all these things. So uh and people just want to get better at JavaScript in general. So that's a huge thing that I heard from people. I just want to get better at JavaScript. So that was a huge part of my marketing is in my opinion, React makes you a better JavaScript developer. So
Hmm.
I put that up there. So yeah, it's just about being convincing, just going out there and saying this is gonna work, and not being like skeezy and stuff like that. Because we've all seen these like make money online websites where it just you look at it and you're like, who would buy this? And people that do buy it, you feel like they got suckered into it.
Yeah. It's people who go out and make money online websites.
Yeah, I will teach you how to be rich and stuff like that, and then like they're getting rich teaching people how to get rich, right? It just doesn't feel right.
Hey, if it worked for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely heard about some of those programs out there that are doing that. I mean, yeah, the website and to your point, Jeff. I mean, the copy it looks great. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's very clean looking. It's responsive. It works well.
Thanks.
It's great quotes. Yeah, I mean, looks great. And then um, going back to the site for 1 second, you did it you used Firebase. Was that just why did you use Firebase, or is it just a little bit easier for the tutorial to use Firebase than throwing up Rails or something in the back end?
Yeah. So I really wanted to focus this tutorial on um, just like learning React and not letting other things get in the way. Because if I did like a Rails one, then all of a sudden you cut off all the PHP devs.
Mm.
Or if I like did this really complicated Mongo setup, you just lose everybody. And that's something that I've learned in teaching in person is that it makes sense to like think about doing all these really complicated things because to you and I, it seems simple to quickly whip up a quick JSON server on our local one. But for most people, it's not easy for them, it really isn't the point of the series. The point of the series is to learn React. So when I was looking at it, I thought Firebase is perfect for that because it really doesn't get in the way of what we're doing, and then it also has the added benefit of being real time and being able to persist data past that. And also, I just think Firebase is an awesome product where you can whip up an app pretty quickly with it.
Yeah, I use Firebase a lot in my tutorials and
Oh
some of my
yeah.
stuff I do. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I've never had any complaints with them. Yeah, that's a pretty smart idea. So I just have a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up here. So are you working on another product yet, or are you still focusing on the marketing for React for beginners or
Yeah,
getting
no,
more people?
I'm working on
You said
uh,
earlier you're working on
a Redux series, which is
Redux, right?
it's going to
That's
be
what you were saying.
another build an app with Redux or with React and React Router and all that good stuff.
Mhm.
And that one I'm going to put out for free as well, just because I've had a lot of people ask, "Hey, what's next? I'm really liking this. What should I learn next?" And the next step after you sort of are really comfortable with React is to step it up a notch and learn some Redux and to build some more apps. So that's the
Are
one
you
I'm.
put are you posting your free stuff on YouTube?
Yeah. So the way it works is it's actually working really well for me. I've got a lot of people ask me why I would do this, but so I post the videos on YouTube for everyone to see, and then I make a website where you have to sign up to get the videos and to get access to watch them. So I put a player. They're hosted on YouTube, but you watch them on my website. So in order to get the download the starter files and everything, you gotta pop your email address in, um, and then it has the added benefit of working the other way around is that people find them on YouTube and then go to the website to get the download files and everything
Mhm.
like that. So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
Yeah, the
smart.
it's
download
been
files are
working
a
out.
nice way to send traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been pretty happy with how that's working so far.
So, so the source code is the source code included in the bundle files, or did you host that on GitHub? Or
And that's actually on GitHub as well, but just kind of getting it all in one place is what the putting
yeah,
in your email address in. So like a lot of people, it'll get popular on Reddit, and Reddit has like this sort of community of people that hate putting their email address in. So
yeah,
someone will just go and find all the links on YouTube and post them in the comments, and that's totally fine by me. And uh, what I find is the people that are actually interested in hearing from me again are the ones that will put their email address in.
that's
And
interesting.
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I sort of get flack from people about doing that, but I'm not going to apologize for giving free content away, right? Like the reason that I'm able to do the free ones is because I collect the email address and people buy my paid one. So if I didn't collect the email address, then I wouldn't be able to do the free ones because my paid ones wouldn't do as well. So that's sort of how it works.
Yeah, for sure. I think a long time ago people thought, everything should be free. You shouldn't charge for anything, but really it's people need to get paid for the work
Yeah,
that they did, and
yeah,
Mhm.
it's good to
exactly.
always maybe give 3 times as much as you get. I definitely believe in that strategy, so I have
Yeah,
no problem.
I see that as well. People are like, "Oh, I just want to support you." I've had a couple of people that just bought it and just to support me because they're like, "Thank you so much." You don't have like a people always ask me for like a Git tip or a Patreon or something where they can like give me $5 or whatever for the free ones, but I don't want money for those. It's what helps me promote the paid ones.
Digital panhandling, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, exactly. I don't like. I always look at these Git tips and stuff, and these people aren't making very much money at all. So
No, and
uh,
it's
I'm
sort of an antisocial proof if you have a low Git tip.
exactly, yeah. So I've never been a big fan of that or the Kickstarter way of going out about things.
I just thought about this. Did you ever think about putting stuff on other platforms? Like, I know you can even sell stuff free on like Udemy or
Yeah. Um, I've got I've talked to like every major book publisher and online video people, and but they all just at the end of the day they don't give you access to your audience. You just help them build their own audience. So,
Mhm.
like, what happens if I help Udemy build an extra 5,000 subscribers? What do I get at the end of the day? Nothing. A couple of people know who I am, but I can't access them when I do my next thing, right?
Hmm.
And in this business is all about it's all about momentum in terms of like your next one is going to be bigger and better because of what you've done to lead up to that. So I'm a big, I don't like Medium. I don't like any of these services that host your content just because I feel like I should have control over my audience.
Yeah.
And I should have control over the experience and how it's delivered.
But at the same time, you've done a few guest blog posts, like for Chris Coyier.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess he
Um,
had a different way of moving people towards you, or he was just big enough that.
yeah, I think that in that case, I'm totally fine with doing it because in return you get uh, quite a bit of promotion
Hmm.
in return. But in terms of actually selling on another one, like I had a call with Skillshare, and they danced around it for so long, and they finally got down to how much money do you make, and it's like $1 per every person that takes your course.
Ooh.
So
Oh,
yeah, it's not worth it to me, and I see these people just killing it on these things, and I know that there are people making some pretty good money on them, but I guess it's just not for me.
Yeah, to do that, you have to have really big scale and
Yeah,
usually create multiple courses.
yeah. I know John Sonmez is apparently just killing it on what platform is he on? I forget.
Uh, isn't it Pluralsight?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
yeah.
his MO
Apparently
is
he's
like to take a month to learn something, then pump out a course on it,
yeah.
then completely switch gears and do something entirely different.
So yeah, yeah, he's doing well on that, and that's really good because these plural site and whatnot, they have huge built-in audiences, which is not something that I had when I started, and still not something that I really have. But I see myself 4 or 5 years out that I'll have a massive audience to market this stuff for. So I'm kind of giving that up right now in working on building that audience myself.
Hmm.
That makes perfect sense. And I want to go back to what you're saying, Wes, where you may not have an audience at the beginning,
Yep.
but once you start creating more products and courses and releasing more free things out there and even stuff your people are paying for, I think your previous course definitely helps pay for your next course, so to speak. Like your previous book will
Yeah.
help pay for your next book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You have to start somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
Hmm.
a lot of times people are discouraged because you start with 0 Twitter followers and 0 people on your email list, and it's extremely frustrating. But there's also people that are out there to help you, right? And that people will help you gain attention and are happy to, if you're doing good quality work at the end of the day and you're not just trying to make a quick buck, and if you're in this for the long haul, it'll totally work out.
Hmm.
Yep, for
Yep,
sure.
and
All
that's a
right.
great way
Well,
to think of it.
Jeff, do you have any more questions? I want to be.
I'm good.
I'll wrap it up here soon. Just about an
Yeah,
hour.
thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for
Yes.
having me.
Thanks, Wes. Where can people get a hold of you? We already mentioned React4Beginners.com a few times.
Yeah.
Is that the best place for people to check you out and
I
your website?
most likely I'm on Twitter at Westboss, WESBOS, and westboss.com, and you'll find everything else throughout there.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Thanks again.
No
Yeah, great
problem.
talking
Thank
to you.
you.